Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good morning so far. I just wanted to jump on here just to share something that God's been speaking to me about over the last little while, and something that actually happened yesterday. But just wanted to give you the backstory first. I'm speaking in a couple of months at a theology training course on the topic, the conflict of the kingdom. In other words, you know how when you say yes to Jesus, it doesn't mean that life suddenly all goes brilliantly and there's never any trouble. Actually, when you say yes to Jesus, you come into a battle and you don't look for the battle, but when the battle comes, we shouldn't be surprised. I'm talking a bit about how you navigate walking through the battle, but not stopping being who God's called you to be or doing the stuff he's called you to do. And I'm going to look at the life of Paul and particularly look at, morning Kate, hope you're doing okay. Particularly look at his journey where he was shipwrecked in the book of Acts, towards the end of the book of Acts. And basically he's on his way to Rome to see Caesar, and he feels like God has said, you're going to go there, you're going to get to give the gospel to the emperor, and he is a promise that God's spoken to him about, and then he gets shipwrecked. And so he goes on this journey, he's on this boat, he gets shipwrecked, he almost dies, which is huge. And then they all get onto the island of Malta, so they all survive, and then they're building a fire, and then Paul gets bitten by a snake. As if the shipwreck hadn't been hard enough, he then gets bitten by a snake. I don't know how you would have responded. I would have been pretty miffed about the shipwreck, to be honest, but basically the Bible says he shakes the snake off, and then in the next paragraph he's praying for all the sick people on the island, and all of them get healed. And so it's such a provocation to me. Paul is such a provocation of, he knew what he was called to do, and he knew God had promises over his life, and he was focusing on those, and battle came, and struggle came, and challenge came, but it's like it almost like was a bit irrelevant to him. He kind of shook it off and still kept focused on, this is what I'm called to do. And he's shipwrecked and he gets bitten by a snake, but his mindset is, I can still see this whole island healed. And it's just such a provocation. So anyway, that's just some of the backstory. So this last weekend we had Randy Clark with us. It's been an amazing weekend. We've heard so many stories of breakthrough, people being healed, deafness going. I saw a story of a lady who had an eye grow in her eye socket. People who are getting out of wheelchairs. Just so many stories over Friday and Saturday and Sunday night. So I'm seeing a kingdom advance. Then on Monday, I had a challenging day. So on Monday, my dad went in for open heart surgery, and that was a 6-hour operation. And having to wait to hear what had happened was emotionally draining. Thank you for those who've prayed, by the way. He seems to be doing good, so he's obviously still recovering, but that was one thing. Then I was also waiting for blood tests for myself on Monday, for tests that the hospital is doing with me. And then later in the day I had a root canal treatment on a tooth that has taken over a year to fix, and hopefully this is it. But that all happened on the Monday. Having heard a weekend full of massive kingdom breakthrough, then I was faced with the battle. My dad's not great, I'm waiting for tests, and I'm having to get root canal. And then last night, I had an MRI scan, which is again linked in with these tests the hospitals are doing. And so, I know I'm called to bring the kingdom, and I've heard amazing stories of it, but there's the battle, there's a very real battle. It's not a shipwreck by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still a challenge, emotionally draining. So anyway, last night I had this MRI, and I was just been freshly provoked by Paul, really, to be honest, and realising I'm about to speak about this guy who was shipwrecked and bitten by a snake, but kept going for it. And so I was in the MRI machine, and I was feeling a bit apprehensive. I don't know if you've ever done one, but there's not much space. And I had my eyes closed, and I was just praying and saying, okay, God, please keep me peaceful. And it took about half an hour or so. Anyway, a little bit into the MRI, I thought, well, I'm still called to bring the kingdom. Maybe I could ask God what he wants to say to the radiographer and the receptionist who I've just met. Maybe I could get some words of knowledge and prophetic words, and even in the midst of this personal battle, still bring the kingdom. And I'm not saying this to big myself up in any way, because bringing words of knowledge and the prophetic during medical tests is a very new thing for me. I've heard other people who've done it and they've been amazing, and it's been such a provocation to me. But anyway, I started to pray. I'm in this machine, and God begins to speak to me about the radiographer and the receptionist. So once the test is done, I come out of the machine and I start talking to this radiographer, lovely guy, and I just said, this is potentially a little bit weird. I've been praying for you in the machine, and I feel like God's shared some stuff that he wants me to say. Can I share it with you? And he was super open, such a lovely guy. I got to share the prophetic stuff with him and talk to him about being a great father and God celebrating over him and some other things. Anyway, he seemed really encouraged by it, so that was really lovely. And then I came out to reception and had a conversation with the receptionist. And again, I said, this might sound a little bit weird, but I was praying for you while I was in the machine. And I felt like God gave me a word of knowledge for you. And it was to do with, can I share what I felt like God said? And she was very happy. And I said, I think God told me that you've got pain in your neck, at the top of your neck, at the back of your neck. And she said, oh yeah, I do. I have pain in my neck. And she said, I've had it for about 2 years. So I said to her, well, what would be the pain level out of 10? And she said it was about 5. So I said, I know this is weird, but would you be up for me praying for you that God would heal your neck? Because I feel like he's told me that you've got the pain because he wants to heal it. And she was totally up for it, lovely lady. So I just held her hand and I just commanded the pain in her neck to go and just released healing into her neck. And it got a bit better after the first time, and then I prayed again and she started moving her neck around and she said, oh my gosh, the grinding stopped and the pain has completely gone out of my neck. And I just got to share another prophetic word with her. I saw her eyes welling up with tears, and it was just so cool. It was just so much fun, and it made me come alive and thought, what a brilliant way to spend an MRI scan, asking God to speak to the people who are doing an amazing job at loving me and looking after me. And it just shifted stuff on its head, really. And just provoked by Paul about how you can bring the kingdom even when you're facing the battle, and the battle shouldn't be a distraction to what he's put in our hearts and what he's called us to. Now, if Monday had gone differently and my root canal hadn't been finished off and the blood test results weren't as good as I'd hoped and stuff hadn't gone so well with my dad, I'm not sure that my brain would have been in the same place to keep going for it. I think I've got a way to go when it comes to the battle, to really be able to shift my thinking to be like, no, I'm going to keep bringing the kingdom. But anyway, it was a good first step, and I loved it, love what Jesus did. What's really fun is one of the ladies in our church will be connected with them because she works with those guys in that department, so she'll be able to follow up what God's done. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, just wanted to encourage you. Hope that encourages some of you if you are facing some battles right now. I just pray for you for God's grace to be all over you, but also that the promises he's spoken over your life, the stuff he's called you to, it's all still true. He still has got that stuff for you. You're still called to bring the kingdom, and maybe look for ways to do that in the next few days to see his kingdom come. And maybe in the comments you could write different ways recently you've seen God's kingdom come through you or around you, just because I think it would encourage us to keep going for it. Anyway, be blessed. Have a brilliant Wednesday, and let's see if God gives us some opportunities to bring his kingdom. Lots of love.